One. What's happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from NoleGameDay.com. How is everybody doing?
Ooh!
How's
Texas
everybody
A&M
doing?
Texas A&M gets an interception in the end zone.
Oh, I don't think that's how we should start this
That's not
whatsoever.
what we're here to talk about.
That's no. The fans might not like hearing that, but Florida State takes down North Carolina in Chapel Hill, 35-25. Jordan Travis goes off. Incredible game by him. Defensive plays. Sam Howell's running for his life everywhere. That was about the only offense they had. Gentlemen, Mike Norvell gets his first win on the road. Mac Brown will never probably beat Florida State in his coaching career.
I feel great, man. Like this is probably the most aesthetically pleasing game, if that's really a way to put it, for me personally, since the Orange Bowl. You know, it was a game that I don't think anyone expected FSU to win. As we were talking about before you hopped on here, there are 3-score underdogs, and minus the first 9 minutes, they dominated that game at certain times. Yeah, they had some stuff to clean up and had some missed tackles, and had some plays here and there that they gave up that they could have stopped. But all in all, man, I think that you're seeing a team that's found an identity on offense for sure, and it's as much as we all talk about Adam Fuller, his guys are playing hard for him, and they played a really good game against a very dangerous quarterback who is going to be a top NFL pick.
Yeah, like you said, Nate, I mean, it was a fantastic performance from Florida State. They came into this game heavy underdogs, and they just went right in, got down 10-0 early, and you're like, man, is that going to be it for today? But no, they just came back, punched the Tar Heels in the mouth, and Jordan Travis did what he had to do. The running game produced all game. The defense got some stops, and even in big situations, they came up huge. They got the goal line stand late in the game. They got the interception on Howell in the first half to keep the momentum going. I mean, by all accounts, most complete game outside of that first quarter that Florida State's played all season, and they really showed what this team can be moving forward into the rest of the season. Like you said, they found an identity on offense, and the defense finally is starting to come together during those big moments when they have to step up.
Yeah, like you said, that the defense was situationally smart. Like plays on the goal line, when they had to get off the field, they got off the field, and we haven't necessarily seen that on a consistent basis. This is definitely the most complete game probably under Norvell. You look at Carolina last year, they had to hold on for dear life to win that game. But, they, like you said earlier, the score was 35-17. That last touchdown was garbage time. They went in after being down 10-0, and they responded to the adversity, which is what I talked about in the Mark Rogers podcast. Like, we haven't seen that. We've seen them get better at it, but they responded, and they turned around, and they put it to them in the second quarter. Like, clearly dominated that team in the second quarter.
21 points, no points for North Carolina in the second quarter. Dominating. I mean, Florida State's defense play. I mean, it was weird. A first reaction show, really, or recap of a game where we're talking in the production meeting about the favorite plays that we thought throughout the whole game. I mean, there was just that you got two handfuls that you could talk about. So many plays. I talked about Sidney Williams on whenever Sam Howell went deep. Had a wide receiver there, could have scored 6, but played a fantastic play. And I mean, it was pretty, and at the perfect time to deflect that ball and make it incomplete. But you look everywhere, and everybody's made plays. We talked about it before, talking about Jordan Travis rolling out and getting that first down to the veteran wide receiver Keyshawn Helton, keeping his feet in there. I mean, Keyshawn's
catch.
Yeah, like 2 feet down. There's no reason to even review that. I mean, he was perfectly inbound, and
they just wanted to look at it again because it was so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It was worth the review.
Yep. And then Jordan Travis's throw, I'm just like, there's so many things. Jordan Travis's throw to Ontario Wilson, perfect timing. I mean, he knows how fast Ontario is, so just put it in front of him and he'll go get it. And it was just perfect timing. Those guys have been hitting on a trend lately. And Jordan Travis talking on the press after the game, the press conference, saying, he's so happy for his offensive line. He said it was rare to see them smiling as much, but he was just so happy to see them smiling because he said they just get so much hate from the outside, and the media talks badly about them, and they've been talking about them badly for years. But he was very just very candid and just loves his teammates.
I don't think that I don't think we've been that tough on the offensive line this year. I think we've all said that, this is a unit that's had to stay healthy and also has played better under Coach Atkins. And one thing that I was talking about with Steve on the other podcast I was doing was that it's arguable that the offense played better when Love Taylor went out with his injury. I know he's playing banged up. He's trying to gut through it, but you could argue that when Baby and Johnson came in, the offensive line played better as a whole. They started moving the ball in that second quarter, and this was the first game since Notre Dame that they had their initial starting lineup together. So you didn't have a drop off with Baby when he came in, and so that was good to see. This bye week can't come at a better time for Florida State, though.
Mm-hmm. Not wrong.
Yeah, it was huge to get Maurice Smith back, because he's been out since that first half against Notre Dame. I think having your starting center was absolutely huge. And then, like you said, I don't think it's an indictment on Love Taylor that Bavion Johnson helped the offense once he got in there. He's banged up. Robert Scott's banged up. A lot of those guys on the offensive line need some rest. And, you just said it a second ago. The bye week cannot come at a perfect time. I think I've been saying that for 2 weeks because, the offensive line has really been beat up dating all the way back to the Louisville game. And these next, 10, 14 days are going to be essential in getting them back healthy for the final 6 games of the season.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, observing practice, Devontae Love Taylor has been dealing with this injury, and so, but it's good noting there, Nate, about Bavion Johnson coming in, and that offensive line was moving well. That's a 5th-year veteran. You expect him to come in and be able to play solid, but overall, this season we haven't really had to talk badly about the offensive line, but today it just feel like all the cylinders were clicking with the offense. It felt like, this is the first time I was able to expect Florida State to have a successful drive, sustained drives. Norvell talked about it. He was the happiest guy. I believe Irish Raffel asked him, how do you feel now with y'all being able to get these drives going? And he said, I can't lie to you, Ira, I'm the happiest person here. That's just so huge because that allows the defense to get some rest, man, because that's what Florida State has struggled with. Florida State's defense always on the field. Florida State goes 3 and out on offense. They're back out there. They're able to actually go and look at some film and see what's going on and talk on the sideline before having to go back out there. So, there's just a lot of things when you can have an offense that does its thing. We've seen Norvell do it at Memphis. It seems like things are starting to click there, and dang, there was a wide receiver room today, which is weird. You would have never. The running game was great too, but the wide receivers had a good game. I don't think we would have expected that, and in this game,
no, they stepped up.
Yeah, listen, like.
Also, thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric, for the
appreciate that,
tip.
Eric.
Absolutely.
This is, for me, I think getting it's Syracuse. I get it, but getting that first win off their shoulders and getting that pressure off of them, I do think they're able to just relax a little bit and just play the game. And I think that you saw some continuity, from last week, and also just confidence is a big thing in sports, and I think that they. Moving forward now, I know someone put on here earlier, can they get to 7 wins? I think there's a path to 6, but, that's something we can talk about, maybe not today, but, on Wednesday, how Florida State can get to 6 wins and make a bowl, which would be crazy that we're actually would consider that as an option. But, I've been one of the biggest your boy Travis, but you gotta give him his props, man. He plays within the system. The coaches did a really good job of calling an offense that fits his his game. Kid's just a gutty, good football player. A quarterback's to be seen, but he's a football player, and the team responds to him.
Yeah, and I mean, he did what he needed to do today. He used his legs, made a ton of plays, had that long touchdown run, obviously. But other outside of that, there was some RPO plays that he pulled down and made a couple plays with his feet, whereas otherwise it probably would have been a tackle for loss. And in the passing game, I mean, he just did what he needed to do. He hit a couple deep shots, which I thought was huge on Terry Wilson and Keyshawn Helton. And then, some of the other passes were just quick little screens to Cameron McDonald, for instance. But the offense did what it had to do. They had now your last two games, you're 9 of 9 in the red zone. All three today were touchdowns. And you also used up a lot of clock. 3 of those drives were extremely long. I know the one to make it 10-7 was like 7 minutes or something like that. You also had the 80-plus yard drive in that third quarter. So it was impressive to see what they did today.
Yeah, they were 7 for 10 on third down.
Yep.
That's their best performance since 2014 on third down, which says a lot.
Yeah.
So we're talking about best performance on such a critical down in 7 years.
And not only that, I mean, I'd be interested to see what the average yards were on third down, because they did so well on first and second down consistently that if it did get to third down, it was typically, 3rd and 4 or less, third and short.
Right. Yeah. So, staying ahead of the chains is what they did really well today. Like, they didn't get in those second, like you said, those down and long distances that they, were kind of forced to be one-dimensional. So they were able to call a larger assortment of plays, and I think that kept Carolina on their heels. Which is a lot to be said. Which shows that this is any team, not just FSU, but if you can consistently stay on the field and stay ahead of and getting third and shorts and second and shorts and all that kind of stuff, you're going to be successful. And we haven't seen that from FSU. Maybe since Notre Dame, but we haven't seen that on a consistent basis, like we saw today, in my opinion, under Norvell. Maybe against Duke last year to end the season, but for me, I thought this was, overall probably the best effort we've seen under this coaching staff.
Other than Devon, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it can't be understated how big this win is. North Carolina was only 3-2 coming into this game, but Nate, you weren't here on Wednesday. I was talking about how they were a different beast at home. The announcers noted when Sam Howell threw that pick, that was his first interception of the season at home. And North Carolina's offense had just been clicking for whatever reason. They were scoring 52.3 points per game
at home.
And for Florida State to hold them to 25, even though they got 432 total yards. I mean, it was a nice effort from the defense. Sam Howell was one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and they really wanted this game. So to keep Howell and Mac Brown winless against Florida State, it feels pretty sweet.
Yeah, no, it ain't too bad.
It feels hella sweet.
I was going to mention, too, injury-wise, Devontae Love-Taylor, but I'm thinking, you had multiple guys go down, but unless anything changed, it seemed like Keir Thomas was back into the game, which was huge for FSU. And who am I missing here? Sidney Williams was down on a play. Brownlee was down on a play. There was a handful of guys that were hurt but came back in, which was gigantic for Florida State, because Florida State already knows. And I'll tell you what, Malcolm Ray, keep an eye on him. I thought he played well. I mean, hasn't had a lot of experience yet at Florida State, but comes in and played really well. I mean, he had a lot of pressures, and he looked good. That's a big boy, too. That is a big boy.
He's played well all season. That's the guy that people have been kind of talking about since he arrived on campus. So that whole, that package they took with Brownlee and Ray seems to be, paying dividends for Florida State.
Yeah, and you needed it today with Dennis Briggs always out for the season. This was Malcolm Ray's first start of his career, and he made an impact. And this is a guy, ton of potential. I can't remember the exact division, but he won player like of the city or player of the year in his high school town. Yeah. And a big football talent area. Yeah. And then he came into Florida State and was practice player of the year on defense his true freshman season. So this is a guy, he's going to continue to grow. I think he's going to make big impact on that Florida State defense.
And then he got banged up, I think, with the shoulder. So this is his first time, really being healthy and getting his opportunity. He's making it. He's showing that it's depth, and he's also showing that he can contribute. But something you said a few minutes ago, Logan. There's a difference between August, September, 100%, and October, 100%. From this point forward, everyone's going to have dings and bruises and banged up. But Florida State can't really afford those big injuries. So, we're going to see a team that's going to gut it out for the rest of the season.
Yep, this big thing right here. I don't remember seeing this in a very long time. This sack column for North Carolina, zero. Nothing. That's what Jordan Travis was talking about in the press conference, that he just no wonder he loves those guys. They kept them clean for the most part. Jordan Travis uses his legs and he makes plays and, get away from the sacks. But I was watching Dylan Gibbons in this game. I know had a false start, but other than that, this guy is running down the field. He's going to the second level to block, and that's something that Norvell was really high on and giving a lot of praise to guys. It's funny how things work, but this week in practice, two biggest things that Norvell was giving praise for was takeaways, number one, and he talked about it on Monday's or Tuesday's presser, how big it is, and they need to have them. They give themselves opportunities, but they just don't get away with the ball. Takeaway was number one, and then number two is guys moving to the second level on the offensive line and moving to the linebacker and creating blocks and for their running backs. And I was watching Dylan Gibbons a lot of this game, and they were doing, there was multiple guys, but Dylan Gibbons had a really solid day moving to that second level, blocking 15, 20, 30 yards down the field. And Norvell also mentioned on the wide receivers room too. Those guys just continue to get better at blocking, and McLean has been great there. And it just goes to show that just helps so much. It helps Jordan Travis whenever he's running, because he's also a running back practically. And then, Corbin and Ward.
And let's make it clear, Carolina doesn't have scrubs up front. They in 2 years are going to be super talented, and some of their future's definitely bright there, the way they've recruited. But they don't have scrubs there. So to mention the 0 sacks and the way the offensive line played, you just got to be really happy with the outcome.
Yeah, and I think maybe just as important as allowing 0 sacks, you only gave up 2 tackles for loss, and I believe one of them was when Jordan Travis gave himself up, late in the game just to run the clock out, if I'm not mistaken.
Florida State was 3 for 3 in the red zone. I know there's a comment on here from Stan on Facebook saying the play calling was amazing. I was watching it with my dad. It was pretty. The one play where Terry Wilson also had a great grab here, but they had him, they put him in motion off to the side and then ran a beautiful play. The linebackers, the DBs had no idea on UNC side. They had no idea what was going on. And I was calling, I said, they have no idea what to do with Ontario Wilson in motion right now. They have zero clue. And sure enough, Ontario one just makes a beautiful grab. And, that's a 6 points. But Norvell and Dillingham, I think, was by far their prettiest game they've called. And they did that a little bit with UNC last year, but that was still first year. But it just felt it was in all motion tonight.
Yeah, and you look at it through the first 4 games, and there wasn't really a lot of consistency on the offense and with the play calling and who was getting touches. But these last 2 games, Florida State has done a really good job of getting the ball to the guys on offense who can make plays. They obviously Jordan Travis is going to be involved a ton, but Treshaun Ward and Jashawn Corbin have gotten a ton of touches. It looks like they trusted the veteran wide receivers a little bit more today. You're seeing Cameron McDonald get more involved with catching the ball. So that's what you have to do. Get it to the players that are going to make you great.
You're not wrong.
The old school Bobby mantra that players make plays. So we finally saw it today. So
one last thing before we jump off of here, let's talk about recruits. I know that y'all kind of are in contact with a good amount of them, but let's talk about Travis Hunter after the game on IG Live with Jarvis Brownlee, cornerback at Florida State. Jerry Jones breaks the rock, but they're all on IG Live, and Travis Hunter joins in on the celebration, and he's dancing in his living room and having a good time. But can we just go ahead and shut it off? Is that it? I mean, I don't think it's ever going to be. It's the number one player in the country. He's one of the most talented guys we've ever seen in years. So the conversation of, oh man, is he really going to still stick with Florida State? That's always going to continuously be a thing. But I think it kind of FSU fans are going to sleep good at night. I mean, it just goes to show that he's going to stick with Norvell. And I loved hearing Norvell in the locker room afterwards saying, we're going to work hard. We're going to work hard. But your ass ain't going to be working on until Tuesday. So they get an extra day off heading into the bye week. But a happy and Jerry Jones gets to break the rock. Good for him. That was huge for him getting that interception.
Yeah. I mean,
and there was another play too he made down the field.
Let's note on that real quick. That interception only turnover of the game. For the first time all season, Florida State won the turnover battle in a football game, and they won by their largest margin of the season. I mean,
for the first time since maybe 2013, a Florida State defensive back made a correct play on the ball, got his head around, and stayed in phase, did everything he's supposed to do, and picked it off. But as far as Travis Hunter, that's not going to stop until he signs. It's just going to be talked about, especially if he takes visits anywhere. And when you have these schmuck fans on their personal Instagram, just whatever that was earlier this week. But I mean, that kind of gives you an inside look about what that relationship is like. So it's going to be hard to break, So, like I said, when I retweeted it, that kid looks pretty locked in, and locked in capital letters. So,
yep.
And real quick, I'll just read out 3 recruiting reactions from recruits that I got after the game. Quarterback AJ Duffy said, "I'm fired up. Very impressive win. Looks like the culture is starting to come together and the guys are buying into it." Offensive lineman Kanaya Charlton, "Only thing I'm thinking about is how we can keep this train going. That's 2 in a row, and I want 3 in a row." And also 2024 running back Cam Davis, "Think the team fought another great game, and I'm very excited they came out with the win." And I'll just close it out with Kashawn Sapp. Woohoo!
Short and sweet. That's all it needs to be. One last question here that I want to jump off of here so we can get into watching some football. We got some boxing going on tonight too. This is from Island Boy. Says, so since Jordan Travis played so well, what happens to Milton? Does he just ride into the sunset? My answer on this is that I think I don't think he's going to try to go play anywhere else. I doubt that. I mean, he almost can't, but I do think he is going to turn and do some coaching. I think that's something that he's talked about on a few ESPN interviews. And he's extremely, extremely smart quarterback. And, that's something. Could it be a pairing? Could he, start his tenure, his coaching tenure with a chance with Norvell? I mean, you never know. It seems like those two click very well. It's good to see him to, being right there supporting Jordan Travis and also being there to celebrate and then put the Powerade on Coach Norvell. But, what do you guys think? I think he's going to go and do some coaching.
I think that, Florida State took Mackenzie Milton with a boomer bust. He's never going to be what he was before. That leg injury was too catastrophic. But the idea of him coming in was to have an experienced quarterback with some true leadership ability. If anything, he's been able to bring that to the team. You watch how he interacts with Jordan Travis on the sidelines. No, I don't think he ups and leaves. I think you need him even if he's your backup, so be it. That makes guys better in practice. So I definitely think that he's a coach in the future, but I think you have to ride with what you have right now and where you're at right now. You can't really switch it up and put him back in there. And, the simple fact is he made it back. So he made it back onto the playing field after, people thought he was going to lose his leg and never walk again. So the fact that he made it back, for me personally, I wanted to see him be successful, but, he could impact others' lives by being a coach.
Yeah, and Jordan Travis and Milton have a really, really close relationship. And, as a comment here from Patrick, being a GA under Norvell wouldn't be a bad game plan. I think Norvell's done pretty good with the coaching tree around him that he's built. It might not be a bad idea to stick it around in Tallahassee a little bit longer and start off his tenure there and learn from under Coach Norvell. But you're right, Nate, huge for leadership with just team needs, and seeing last week with guys holding each other accountable, that is huge. And, I know Ward went out of bounds when he didn't really need to at near the end of the game, and Jordan Travis coming over here and telling him, hey, man, we can't be doing that. But you're starting to see that. And I keep saying it's huge. This team needs it more than anyone else in the country, just holding each other accountable. And now they get to celebrate. Norvell is going to get his first road win of the season against North Carolina, as Nate just randomly, I think his phone just died, so we just lost Nate. But Florida State gets their first road win of the year. Florida State will go into a bye week, and then they'll be facing Walt Bell and the UMassers. But, gentlemen, any last thoughts?
Yeah.
Go Noles.
2 straight wins, go into this bye week, get healed up, and get ready for the second half of this season.
Yep,
give them hell.
Exactly. They need it. Yep, they do need it. Jerry Jones said, I wouldn't mind playing a game this upcoming weekend, but then thought, I have a couple of my guys that are hurt, so might need some healing. Might need some rest. But, yeah, I think that's it. We'll be, don't worry, we'll be recording this week on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. If you're on Facebook, iTunes, Google Play, hit that subscribe button so then you get notified every time we release a new episode. You can follow us on Twitter at Here the Spear. Florida State takes down North Carolina and the Tar Heels, and Sam Howell and his career are going to go 0-2 against Florida State and Mike Norvell. Everybody have a great weekend. Go Steelers. Who's winning the fight? Hold up. Who's winning the fight? Tyson Fury, Wilder.
I got Wilder.
We didn't hear you, Dustin.
I got Wilder with a 10th round knockout.
Fury,
all 12 rounds, but Fury gets it. It's going to be fun. All right. Have a great weekend. Bye, y'all.